Good morning. I would like to call the March 3rd, 2015 City Council meeting to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Here.
Soldner.
Here.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Here.
Dave Line.
Here.
Pruitt.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And this morning's prayer will be given by Daryl Peterson with Grace Christian Church. Morning, Daryl.
Good morning, everybody. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come together and we thank you so much, Father God, for the people that are in charge in different areas. And Father, we just thank you for our police department. We thank you, Father God, for our fire department, and Father, for every department underneath the city, whatever part is. And Father, we just thank you so much for our council members, for the time that they spend and the thoughts they put into their decisions. And Father, we just thank you for our leaders and every other department as well. And Father, we just thank you for John and for his faithfulness and for his goodness. And Father, we just thank you that as this council meeting is brought forth today, that Father, they will listen to their heart and do their research that they've already supposedly have done. And Father, that what the decisions are made is the best for this community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Next item.
Item 4A, Hutchinson Fire Department Mitigation Project with the Kansas Forestry Service.
Doug Hayden, Deputy Fire Chief, and I'm here with Shauna Hartman and Eric Ward with the Kansas Forestry Service. I just wanted to take a few moments to brief you on a mitigation project that the fire department's been involved with the Forestry Service that's going to take place towards the end of this month.
Hello, and thank you for having us this morning. I'm with the Kansas Forest Service and their information officer. And Kansas Forest Service is actually, this is their 10th year of holding a project where they collaborate with Hutchinson Community College fire science students, and in an effort to give those students a training experience much like what we have in the wildland fire organizations, what you hear about out west with the wildland fire organizations and wildland fire. And this year we're also collaborating with the Prairie Dunes Country Club, as well as Sand Hills State Park. And that's where we'll be doing our hands-on training, week-long project during the Hutchinson Community College spring break. And with me today is our incident commander, Eric Ward, and this project is run as a incident management organization with each level filled with logistics and information and that type of organization. So, Eric?
Well, good morning. We're excited to be doing the project here in the Hutchinson area this year. We've done it in several different locations around Kansas. It started up in the Manhattan area just at Tuttle Creek, and we did a couple years there and a couple years at Milford. We've been in Toronto, Kansas for the last couple of years, and this year we're going to be working in the Sand Hills north of Hutchinson, which is an area which historically has had some of the worst wildfires in the state of Kansas. Looking back at in terms of property damage and long-term duration events and so forth. So it was logical to pick that as an area to do some fire safety work, some fuels reduction, and fuels mitigation work. The other thing that's made this unique is that the Hutchinson Fire Department has been very proactive in terms of fire safety stuff in the wildland realm. I believe I can safely say, I was looking back this morning as we were driving down, I believe this is the first year that we've done this project where the local fire department has been an active participant. In previous years, the local departments have come out and maybe provided a truck during a prescribed burn or something, but this year they're an active participant in the project. The other thing that's unique and you guys can be proud of in terms of your fire department is they are one of only 3 fire departments in the state of Kansas, to my knowledge, that have taken the step of sending all of their personnel through the National Wildfire Training and Certification process. So all of their personnel are nationally credentialed as wildland firefighters in various positions. And like I say, only 2 other fire departments in the state that I'm aware of have taken that step. So we're excited to be partnering with them. We think this is going to do some good work in terms of providing some excellent training for the students and other participants, and also some improved fire safety for some of those folks around the country club and around the state park and so forth. So, do you have anything further you wanted to add, Shauna? Or if not, if any of you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them. And if not, we'll let you get on with your other agenda items. Oh, yes.
We do have a VIP day in your packets. We have a VIP day scheduled for Tuesday, March 24th. And that's where we invite you all and other elected officials and public officials to come and view firsthand what this project's about and how we are hopefully bettering the area for potential to reduce the potential for wildfire this year. So we'll meet out at the Hutchinson Community College Fire Science Building near the fire department, and that we'll definitely look forward to seeing you all if you can make it.
Thank you. All right, and Linda, the next group up.
Item 4B, Hutchinson Airport Annual Update.
Good morning. I'm Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. Before Peter gets going on his annual report, I just want to take a moment to congratulate Peter and his staff, as well as the ARF team. ARF stands for Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting Team. This Fire Station 4. A couple weeks ago, we had our annual FAA annual inspection as part of our Part 139 certificate, which allows us to have commercial aircraft. And we got a perfect score. So no deficiencies were found. It really is a accomplishment. Since 1992, the Hutchinson Airport has only done that twice. In the central region this year, the central region is Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, and Nebraska. Only 3 airports received a perfect score. So it's a testament to Peter's diligence and his knowledge and his attention to detail. So I just want to again congratulate Peter and his staff, as well as the ARF team. I know the ARF team, some of the guys are back here as well. But it's really it's a nice honor to have, and he'll be mentioned at the annual conference in Topeka every September. There's a conference for the 4-state area, and all of those airports are recognized. I was there for about a half day on one of the inspections, and it is extremely thorough. If you can imagine what the FAA is going to look at, it's that intense. Everything, pavement markings, fences, lights, signage, fueling systems, training records. They even do a mock incident on the airport where the fire department has a set time to respond and then get water flowing from the truck. So it's a team effort, but again, it's a big deal. And I just want to take a minute to congratulate Peter and his staff in the fire department. So with that, I will let Peter go through his annual report.
Good morning. My name is Peter Miller. I'm your friendly airport manager, and thank you, Justin, for recognizing us on that. I'm going to touch on that a little bit here at the end of my annual report about that inspection. It is a pretty big deal. It's a great marketing tool, and a lot of things had to come together for us to get that. I'll touch on that a little bit here at the end. Let me first get started with the. I'd like to change the name of the airport. I guess it's not so much me. It's we were reclassified in 2012 as a regional airport. The FAA went through and they did a national asset study, and they looked at every airport in the country. They looked at several different aspects of airport, from based aircraft to operations to airport layout to interstate commerce to, I don't know, there were probably 15 other different criteria that they matched. They divided airports into national, regional, local, and basic airports. Hutchinson was considered a Class 4 airport. It used to be Class 1, 2, 3, and 4. They went through when they reclassified it. Hutchinson landed because of our based aircraft, our operations, and our control tower, and the jets that we've got there, and the type of business that takes place at the airport. We fell into the regional category. So did Salina, Manhattan, Garden City, Dodge, and I think Topeka actually all ended up as regional airports. So I know it's taken me 3 years, and I'm just kind of getting around to it now. But I'd like to officially, recognize the airport, Hutchinson Airport, as regional, as it kind of fits more of our kind of what we do out there. In 2014, we had over 40,000 operations, which made us the third busiest airport in the state. And a lot of people kind of raise their eyebrows at that. They don't understand that a lot of those operations you never actually see. Because of the runway layouts and number of approaches we have to the runway, we've got aircraft that are 4, 5, and 8 miles away from Hutchinson that are actually practicing approaches into those runways. So the control tower keeps track of all that, but a lot of times they never actually land at the airport. However, that counts as an operation. The FAA uses those operation counts to determine how much funding airport gets and things like that. We were the third busiest behind Salina and Jabara. And right now we've got 38 based aircraft. Out of those 38, 3 of them are actually not personal jets, but jets related to business. And I don't have a picture of it, but last week we just got a new base jet. It's actually a 1957 T-33 fighter jet. An individual bought that out there. He's going to start doing air shows and stuff. So every time he takes off and lands, we get our own little air show out there. So I can all but guarantee we are the only airport in the state that has one of those based at the airport, and it's a pretty cool airplane. Some quick economic impact stuff from the Hutchinson Airport. This information's a little bit dated. Back in 2009, Kansas Department of Aviation conducted a statewide economic impact study for airports. Hutchinson, in 2009, we had 169 jobs out at the airport that we provide, and total payroll of $5.3 million with a total output to the local and regional community of $15.2 million. So that's basically what the Hutchinson Airport provides to Hutchinson and Reno County and the surrounding counties as far as economic impact. Again, that is a little bit dated. There's going to be a new one that comes out the end of 2015. So hopefully we'll have some updated numbers this time next year. So I'm going to move on a little bit to some of the completed projects that finished up in 2014. The big one, finally, was the 4th Avenue project. That project took 10 years. It became a project back in 2003, and it has literally taken 10 years to get the coordination, the funding, the land acquisition, all the pieces in place for us to actually get 4th Avenue moved so that we can meet the requirements for the object-free zone off the end of that runway. There's kind of an updated aerial of what the new 4th Avenue looks like there. One of the challenges with that project was just simply coordinating between the 12 different organizations to put that project together. Everybody from FEMA, Corps of Engineers, the EPA, KDHE, Bureau of Waste Management, the FAA, U.S. Department of Wildlife and Parks, National Park Service, 2 different sets of engineers, environmentalists, the county, the city. It was a challenge to make all the paperwork work on that. But we are, at this point, construction is done, seeding is done, grant closeout should be about any time. We're waiting on the FAA for them to send the final letter that says that project's done. You can now move on to your next projects. One of the good things that happened this year too was that Hutchinson now has a 100 low lead self-serve station. So that puts us in a unique position. An airport our size both has full service provided through Wells Aircraft, full service fueling. We also have now self-serve, so the pilots that want to come in middle of the night and not pay the call out, and that takes an hour and a half, or not an hour and a half, 30 minutes for Wells to come out and fuel up. Now they've got the option if they'd rather do it themselves. We've got that, that's owned by a private individual. One of the other tenants out there put that in for his customers and for the public too. So that's actually pretty exciting for an airport like Hutchinson. There's only 2 other airports in the state that have both full and self-serve, and now Hutchinson is one of them. So the next project that we got done, and this was one that made me pretty happy, along with Wells Aircraft and a lot of the local pilots, and particularly the base jet pilots, is that we finally addressed the issues with the Hangar 1 floor. Hangar 1 is our, I don't want to say our premier hangar, but it's the executive hangar that we have out there. When the folks come in with their private jets or the larger aircraft, the business folks and stuff, that's the hangar they want to put their aircraft in. It's heated, it's insulated, it's got the most room of any other hangar out there. For about the last 10 years, the floors kind of look like this, and it's a little bit of a drag when you park a $30 million jet on a floor that honestly kind of looked like that. We were able to get creative with some of my operations budgets last year and managed to get a new floor put in, which dramatically dresses up the hangar. The base jets that are out there, now they can see what's dripping out of their jets, usually nothing, but we now have de-icing capability. We can park aircraft in there, turn on the heaters, and de-ice them as a service that we can provide. So we also use that hangar for any of the events we have out there, pilot classes, fly-in breakfasts. I think there's actually, even this spring, there's somebody that wants to have a wedding in there. Okay, sure, you bet. So anyway, this was a big project, and we were happy to get this done. It looks, if we're going to bill ourselves as a regional airport, this makes us look like we're a regional airport out there. So I was pretty proud of that. Another option, or another thing we have accomplished this year, we've gone fully electronic in all of our inspection records, and I'll touch a little bit more on that when I talk about our 139 inspection we just completed. But we're the only airport in the state right now that is fully electronic with our daily, weekly, quarterly fueling inspection, safety inspection, runway object-free zones, runway safety areas, everything. The guys have an iPad out there that tracks absolutely everything they do. It's fully electronic, so our paperwork is now, I don't want to say it's a thing of the past. There's still a decent amount of paperwork. But as far as our inspections to maintain our 139 certificate, it is now so easy. The company that's providing the service to us is using the Hutchinson Airport as an example of how kind of, I don't want to say sell their product, but I get phone calls every month from other airports asking me about this and how well it works. And so we've kind of been made an example of statewide of how to advance the inspection techniques that we use out there. And actually, I'll be presenting on this electronic record keeping at the annual conference next September as well. So there's several other airports that are looking at us and would like to know how this works, and the FAA is very excited about it because it cuts down on their paperwork as well. So that was a pretty good thing. Excited about that one. Future projects. In 2015, we're beginning the design process to start mill and overlay for runway 1735. 1735 is our primary north and south runway. It is the second most used runway out there. It is also the main runway for flight students and smaller kind of single engine aircraft. It's mostly aligned with the wind. The last time that runway was paved was, I think, about 1992, and so it's more than due. We were just out there last week, actually, with the FAA trying to determine how we're going to fund this. We do have the funding for design services in 2015 with hopeful construction in 2016, and as that gets closer, I'm sure you guys will learn more about that. It's grant eligible for 90. FAA will pay for 90% of the project with a 10% match from the city. So that's what we're working on currently right now. It will also, it's kind of complicated to explain, but even just a simple mill and overlay, the way we repaint that runway, we're going to gain another 800 feet of length on that runway because of what's called a displaced threshold. Because of the 4th Avenue project, we can now remove that paint and put it towards the end of the runway, which adds 800 feet of length to that runway. So just by simply moving paint, we gain a little more usability at the airport. So I'd like to touch a little bit on, I mentioned this last year. I'm not sure if too many people remember. Hope not. We've begun work on a strategic business plan for the airport. I firmly believe that if we're going to establish ourselves in the aviation community in Kansas and figure out what it is the aviation community needs, who we're going to service, what the future of aviation is, that that we need to position ourselves out there and actually have a plan that we have put together and work through in order to make things work a little better. This is just one little tiny piece of it. We've been working on some brochures and stuff that we're going to have printed up and sent out. And as you can see, I don't even have the new logo on this one yet. But this is very much a work in progress. I kind of, myself and the Airport Advisory Committee kind of pick at it as we have time. I'll be the first to admit I've never written a business plan before, and so I'm learning quite a bit about the process. So this is an ongoing thing. I hope, I don't want to put a time frame on it. I hope to have something put together by sometime this summer for a draft to kind of look at and figure out what it is we're going to do out there. So with that, going to toot my own horn just a little bit. In November, I was actually elected the president of the Kansas Association of Airports, and my term is a 3-year term. It began January 1st. There's a lot involved with this, a lot more than I actually realized. But me being the president of the Kansas Association of Airports is putting me in a position where I can look at aviation in Kansas as a whole. I can see what other airports are doing, and I'm involved at the state level and at the federal level of funding requirements, what projects need to take place, the health of the aviation industry, particularly in Wichita and Independence. It's putting me in a pretty good position to help develop the business plan for the Hutchinson Airport. The networking capabilities are fantastic. As a matter of fact, just this Thursday, I'll be in Topeka testifying or providing testimony to a bill about aviation fuel taxes in the state of Kansas. So I'm pretty excited about this. I've got my work cut out for me. I'm not sure how I'm going to find time to address all these things, but I'll give it a shot. So that being said, the one last thing I would like to do, and this is what Justin touched on a little while ago, is that last week we finished our Part 139 annual inspection. And this annual inspection, I would like to point out that it requires the coordination and the efforts of many different groups. It's not just myself and my airport staff, which I believe they're here today. Yeah, they're back there. It requires the police department on their annual training for wildlife mitigation and emergency services, aircraft rescue and firefighting. It involves Wells Aircraft with their fueling inspections and their fueling safety stuff that they do, all the tenants, the driver's training. I mean, it covers pretty much everything. And in order for us to receive a perfect on it, a lot of things had to come together. And so this is the second time. The first time we got it was in 2012. This is the second time that we were able to do it here in 2014. And so as Justin said, there were about 4 airports, I guess, in 2014 that received a perfect out of 38 commercial airports in the 4 states region. And it was, like I said, it was, I forgot to mention that Reno County EMS, they were just as much part of this as everybody else. So the fact we were able to do this speaks highly for the airport, speaks highly for the community, speaks highly for the city. And for that, I would like to kind of give everybody a quick round of applause that was involved with this, because this wasn't easy, and this is a great honor for the Hutchinson Airport. And with that, if you guys have any questions for me or anything, I can make up some stuff for you.
Does anyone have any questions? No.
I do have a few questions. First of all, I'd really like to commend you, Peter. Since I think you have come on as the airport manager, the airport facility has just had remarkable upgrades and improvements. I was out there a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't help but notice how professional our terminal building is. That years ago it was tired, it needed some attention, and I know you have addressed some of that. So I think we can be very, very proud of that, because it is a great asset of the community. So I commend you on your passion and your dedication to serving as our very competent airport manager. I read your business plan in the packet, and you referenced Midwest Malibu Center itself, and the growing pains that they have as a company. And I know there's been a lot of discussion, but can you spend just a little bit of time talking to us a little bit about how we might structure some needed expansion through our CIP program, and where might you be with the Airport Advisory Committee and yourself in terms of looking at some future expansions and how that might be structured?
Sure, you bet. Midwest Malibu, for those of you that don't know, they specialize in the maintenance and repair of the PA-46 series of aircraft. These are single-engine, high-performance, pressurized aircraft, and they're pretty specialized aircraft. Those are the only type. There's several different models that he works on, but that's all he works on. Right now, he's limited. He's got such a great business. There's only 3 or 4 different companies in the country that actually work on these aircraft. And last I checked with him, this was a few weeks ago, he's got a 3-month backlog on aircraft that he needs to service and take care of. He's come to us a couple different times, and I'm not quite sure he's ready to pull the trigger on this yet, but he's mentioned on more than one occasion that he's limited by the number of aircraft he can service and the number of employees he can hire by the facilities that he has out there. He's in one of the older hangars out there, and the hangar's in pretty decent shape. But he's talked about adding another 14 or 15,000 square foot. He'd be able to hire anywhere from 4 to 8 more mechanics and be able to double his output of aircraft. He's also talked about adding a second line of aircraft, the TBM series, and I don't know a whole lot about those, but they're pretty similar to the Piper PA-46s. Like I said, I don't believe he's ready right now. He's still working on his long-term business plan and paying off some of the debt he owes when he took over the company and stuff. But I fully expect probably within the next 5 to 10 years, he's going to be pretty much chomping at the bit to expand that business and move it into what it can be. The Airport Advisory Committee fully supports trying to get some more structures built out there for the businesses that do come looking. A lot of the businesses, and it's been a couple of months here since we've had one, but since I've been there, I'd say there's probably been 4 or 5 different companies that have come out to the airport, and they've not been interested in building something. They've been interested in moving into a facility that was ready. One of the latest ones that I can talk about was the company that builds de-icing boots for aircraft that was up in Salina. They were looking to move to a different community, but they wanted to stay around the Wichita area. Hutchinson was one of the first airports that they called. And I said, well, I don't really have anything to rent to you right now. Would you be interested in building? I said, well, no, we kind of need something in the next 6 months. And it'd be pretty challenging to get a hangar built out there in 6 months. But as far as the economic development of the airport and stuff, that's something I hope to address in this business plan. I know that there's people right now out there that are talking with T hangars and some private hangars and stuff, people that are kind of wanting to do their own thing. And that's kind of been working in the back burner a little bit, and I answer questions as I can. Nobody's officially come to me or as far as I know the city yet and said, this is what we're going to do, this is what we want, can you help us make this happen? I hope that does take place in the next few months or so, but until then, it's all kind of, I don't want to say backroom stuff, but they're different individuals are talking about doing different things out there. And I would like to mention that Wells is actually kind of in the same place too. Wells would like to add the Cirrus. Wells is a Cirrus service center. They will work on this and provide warranty work on the Cirrus series of aircraft. With the new Cirrus Vision jet that's going to be certified, if it's not already, it's going to be come out real soon, they would like to position themselves to service that personal jet as well. They really don't have the facilities for it. There's some facilities out there, but they're going to need some major reworking in the next couple of years in order for them to try to capture that market. So I don't know if that answered your question exactly. There's been quite a few opportunities out there, and it's just been kind of a lack of facilities is why we haven't been able to capitalize on those. So
does the city consider initiating some of those discussions as a partner in this in some way in terms of constructing those facilities?
I can't. I don't want to necessarily speak for what
Right.
the city's going to do, but
Well, yeah, we've had, conversations as projects have come up, looking at rebuilding hangars and, our partnership a lot of times would be to, lease back type
Okay.
arrangements, but, nothing's ever really gotten to that level of, let's put this into action. One of the issues we find that, we looked at to the north and to the west expansion is just access off of Airport Road 17th, which
Right.
Any new business is probably going to want. And we always looked at, the existing entrance, but there's some complications there with, is it a transmission line or gas?
utility lines, and
Yeah.
there's
So,
quite a bit there. So
But certainly, we've had those conversations over the years about what the city might do in terms of partnering and, again, the lease purchase, lease back type arrangement, long-term leases, those kinds of things. But, nothing's really ever seems to have gotten to that point yet, but it will eventually.
Okay.
Peter's currently working on getting conceptual drawings for an access road that John was talking about, so we can get an idea of cost, so it's something we can put into the capital budget. Also, in my 5-year plan that you'll see here later on, either 2019 or 2020, I put a placeholder for a building north of Malibu, Midwest Malibu, as well as some utilities, to put some utilities along there. So when these opportunities do come up, that we're better prepared for them.
Right.
So we are taking a proactive
Good.
approach to that.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Peter.
Good questions, John. Thank you, Peter. Okay, I think we have one more presentation.
No, item 4C,
Well-
communications from the audience.
I
Did we-
think
we
we have
had,
Civic Ready that
yeah.
was going to.
Oh, are we changing that?
Evan, is Evan here? Evan, Cywert
We just kind of
is going to talk to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to talk to us about Civic Ready, which you've
We'll
all
do that,
seen
and then we'll
emails
do
on.
the regular.
All right, well, good morning. As John said, I'm Evan Cywert with Reno County Emergency Management. I'm here this morning because the City of Hutchinson and Reno County have significantly partnered to offer a new emergency notification service to our citizens. And so I just want to provide a little bit of a history of where we've been and kind of where we're going with that partnership. So for the last few years, we have offered a service to our citizens. It was a pretty limited notification service. We were kind of limited by the number of notifications we could actually issue to the public. And we were also kind of limited with some of the features and our user ability on our side of issuing those emergency notifications. So on March 1st, we actually went live with a new solution called Civic Ready, which is a much more feature-rich and robust solution for our citizens. And so that's been a pretty significant partnership with the city and county to provide that. And so with this new system, we will be able to provide unlimited alerts to our citizens. These will be instantaneous alerts. So we're talking about emergency evacuation alerts, Amber alerts for lost or missing children, weather alerts issued by the National Weather Service. All of this comes through an automated system, all provided by a third-party provider. And so this is going to be a much more robust system for our users. And so hopefully with this, we'll be able to get geographic-based warnings out to our citizens so they can actually input the locations they want information for. And they're going to get the information they need to keep their family and themselves safe in the areas they live, work, and play. And so they can actually go online to the Reno County website or the City of Hutchinson website and click the Civic Ready button and sign up and customize exactly what information they want to receive. And so this system actually captures all of the landline phones in the county. So by default, we can actually send emergency notifications out to any landline phone in the county within the area of a warning or emergency situation. However, citizens do have to sign up their cell phones. So we aren't able to capture that information automatically. So citizens who want those alerts on their cell phone, or if they don't have a home landline phone, they do need to go online or call us at Emergency Management and we can help them get signed up. And on a related note, today at 1:30 is actually our statewide tornado drill. So this is a great time to think about how are you as a citizen going to receive that emergency information if you're away from TV or the radio or indoors where you can't hear our warning sirens. And so this Civic Ready solution is an excellent way to receive that just instantaneously through a text message or a phone call. So I would encourage citizens today to just go online, sign up. And so I'm excited that this system is live and we're able to provide these enhanced notifications. So I greatly appreciate the cooperation through the City of Hutchinson working through this process with us. I think this is going to be a great service for our citizens. Our response has been overwhelming so far. We've got a few thousand users who have went online and signed up cell phones already just in the first few days of this program. So thank you for the time. I'd gladly entertain some questions.
Evan, what's the internet address that you go sign up for this?
Sure, they can go to hutchgov.com or renogov.org, which would be the City of Hutchinson and Reno County websites respectively. So citizens can go there and right on the homepage of both of those websites, they'll find kind of an orange Civic Ready button and they can click on that and sign up.
And will the drill today go out to, will that just show up as an alert so people know if it's kind of working for them?
Right, we're still clarifying that. We believe it will. And in years past, the National Weather Service has not actually issued an actual tornado warning
on the test day on March 3rd. However, today they've actually gotten permission from the federal level, and we're actually going to issue a tornado warning today. So we do believe that will go out on the alert system today.
Okay.
It's a great question.
And if you're
The
under
insecure
code
people to
red,
death.
because that's been a question, you've got to read. It doesn't automatically. You've
Correct.
got to read.
If you were in the old system, unfortunately, because of the information security, they cannot actually release their subscriber base. So if you were under the old system and you want to continue to receive alerts under the new Civic Ready system, you will need to go online and sign up again. So that is a little bit of the transition and some of the growing pains with moving to this new solution. But as I said, this is much more customizable for you as a citizen. You can actually pick your geographic location. You can even pick the hours you want alerts. If you want some quiet hours, you don't want to be interrupted, you can set those and pick exactly what information you want to receive.
That just seems funny.
Not while I sleep.
Yeah.
Not while I sleep.
I'm really not up for the tornado in the middle
Yeah,
of the
no
night.
tornadoes in the middle of the night, hopefully, but,
Yeah.
so, excellent question. Thanks again for your time.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Evan.
Hopefully everyone will get signed up so they get alerted. And to my knowledge, that's all we have on formal presentations.
That is, unless there's
Yeah.
other comments.
Right.
Yeah.
So this otherwise is a time where we take oral communications from the audience. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council on any issue that is not already on the agenda, we invite you to come up to the podium, ask you to state your name, and limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes. Do we have anyone that would like to address council? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the next item?
Items 5A through E, consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Prowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 6A, consider resolution changing the name of the airport to Hutchinson Regional Airport.
Good morning, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. Earlier in Peter's annual report, he explained that we've been reclassified by the FAA as a regional airport, so we're just wanting to officially name us the Hutchinson Regional Airport to match what the FAA calls us. Right now, there is not a tie to funding with those levels of airports, but I have a pretty good suspicion that at some point in the future, funding will be based on what type of airport you are. So, but anyway, it is staff's recommendation to officially change the name. It will take us a while to change the signs. Some of the signs are pretty big, but we'll start phasing that in and get all the signage corrected as well. So. It is my recommendation to change the name, and if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer those.
Justin, how often do they go through and make these designations?
Not very often. It's been, I think Peter said 3 years ago that this was changed, 3 or 4 years ago, and I think before that it was a long time. So I don't anticipate that in 3 or 4 years they're gonna come back and reclassify people. So. There's not a set schedule, I guess.
Okay. So then, how far, so the difference between, we had 40,000 operations, as I recall, and so that was one of the things that set us above, there's regional, and what's the one below regional?
Local,
Local.
or
Just
municipal, yeah.
Just local, okay.
Yeah.
How far above the local threshold were we?
I'm not sure. I don't know what that threshold is. I know there are lots of factors, not just number of operations. The number of people that is serviced by the airport, so the geographic area, the types of aircraft, so number of base jets, those sorts of things. So it's not just if you do 30,000 or more, you're regional. If you do 100,000 or more, you're an international. So
Obviously, of course, the concern is 3 years from now, we have to change the name again.
correct.
We don't want to do that,
Correct.
so.
I think we probably have an element of freedom in that. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, it makes much better sense to be a regional regardless.
and-
I mean,
and
we can
that's-
kind of
Yeah,
operate how we want.
That's the big reason Peter and I want to change the name. It's just for the marketing aspect of it, and so we're consistent with the FAA. But it's just the idea that we truly are a regional, and we want that message to be out there when people refer to the airport. It's not just the Hutch Airport; it's the Hutchinson Regional. So.
Well, I mean, and I support that. I think that's what we should name it, but it kind of reminds me that how, you know, Hutch High and Bueller High, seems like every couple of years they go up and down a class based on how many people enroll, and I just don't want to put us in a situation where we're calling ourselves a regional airport when, well, we're really a local one. And vice versa, I don't want to call us a local airport if we're regional. I agree with what Jade's saying about regional is much better for us. I mean, I support it, I just
Yeah, I don't
want to make sure that we're
anticipate-
doing the right thing here
Yeah.
long-term.
Yeah, I don't anticipate that we would be reclassified anytime in the near future. I wish I could tell you in 10 years it would be looked at, but that's not an FAA requirement or an FAA set standard, so.
Okay. Well, I'd make a motion that we support staff's recommendation to change the airport name to Hutchinson Regional Airport and to change the signs as appropriate.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7A, consider setting a public hearing to consider application for certificate of public convenience and necessity for Marcia Judd.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. Council, we've received an application to operate a tax cab service and an application to provide a certificate of public convenience and necessity. The Hutchinson City Code requires that this be set for public hearing, and we're asking that that be set for March 17 at 9:00 a.m.
And just so we've officially said this, we're just setting a public hearing. We're not giving any favorable or negative comments or connotation to
That's what
the
the public
decision to set
hearing
up
is
a
for.
hearing.
Right. Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
And at that time is when people in favor or in opposition can come forward and address us.
That's
Okay.
correct.
We just like to be really clear, Paul. Do we have a motion?
I would move to set a public hearing to consider application for certificate of public convenience and necessity by Marcia Judd.
I'll second.
And a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7B, consider appeal of Landmarks Commission decision for property at 6 and 8 South Cleveland.
Good morning, Jana McCarron, Director of Planning and Development. And the case before you today, this morning is the appeal of a landmarks determination regarding a property located at 6 and 8 South Cleveland Street. It's actually a duplex, that's why it has two addresses. And the owner of that property is Laverne Pounds. The property owner would like to replace the windows in this structure. They are currently wood windows, historic wood windows, and he wants to put vinyl windows in the structure. The house is part of the Houston Whiteside National Historic Register District. It is a non-contributing structure, and we're not really sure exactly when it was built. We have conflicting data, but it was built somewhere between 1930 and 1945. And here's a map of the Houston Whiteside District. You can see in the green there is where this structure is located. So it is kind of on the edge of the district. Here's a photograph showing the existing windows. They are wood. They've been in there probably since the house was constructed. And what the owner would like to replace them with there on the right are vinyl windows. He's already ordered them, came down to the city to get a permit, and found out he was in the historic district. As you are aware, we are a certified local government, so we are authorized to act on behalf of the state, the Landmarks Commission can, to do historic review for structures located within those districts. And the Landmarks Commission held their historic review of this proposal on February 12th, 2015. And the review standards that the Landmarks Commission has to use are based on the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, which basically look at will this project damage or destroy the historic character of the house or the district. Well, obviously these are historic windows. If you take them out and put modern windows in there, it's no longer going to be considered historic. So the Landmarks Commission ruled that they basically denied the petition and said, no, you cannot do this. It would damage or destroy the historic character of the house or the district. Even though the house does have vinyl siding, I just wanted to point that out, and it had vinyl siding before it was listed, before the district was formed. As you're also aware, the City Council has the ultimate authority. Even if the state were the one doing the review, the City Council has the ability to review these projects if the property owner appeals, which Mr. Pounds has appealed and asked you guys to look at his proposal. You have different review criteria. They're based on prudent or feasible alternatives to the project. You can look at technical issues, design issues, the project's relationship to the community-wide plan, or economic issues. And so at this time, the question before you is whether you want to reverse or uphold the Landmarks Commission determination based upon a finding that there is or is not a feasible and prudent alternative to the project. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I think.
Are there any questions? Laverle, would you like to address the council?
Laverle Pounds, I live at 512 East Avenue A here in Hutchinson. I'm the duplex there that we're talking about on here. I don't hold the Landmarks Commission under any bad label or anything because they're turning me down. They're following some rules, I believe, that they look at by the state, but it's kind of like a herd mentality. You can't take each property in the whole district and hold them all to the same standards in that. This is a duplex, not a historical home. There's historical homes in there, and I think they should be preserved in that, and I understand that. This property, though, is they've labeled it as a non-contributing factored home. It currently does have vinyl siding. The garage has already been taken down, and it's a metal carport has been put up, and again, that was done prior to it going into the addition there of the Houston Whitesides. So I don't know. I asked to go ahead and let me put those in. It will greatly, I think, upgrade and enhance the looks of it. I don't know if you've noticed, but they're at the corner of Avenue A, and I know that will be coming up here shortly, 700 and 702. A nice-looking duplex. It's just recently been repainted, new windows, new roof. It's now up and rented both sides, and it's been vacant for almost 3 years. And they've went in and upgraded that, and that's what we're wanting down there. I understand the historical value of the areas, but I just see that this one is still should be able to put the vinyl windows in. They'd mentioned also 3/1 was the windows on this one here. 2 of them already are 1/1, and I will be going back in with the 1/1 on the windows. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, that's the number of panes in the window. So, any questions for me?
I don't think so, thank you. Well, and we've had this type of issue before. I know I live in the area. I certainly fall on the side of we've got a lot of properties deteriorating in the area, and I would rather see them fixed up in some manner than to kind of just continue to deteriorate. As Laverle mentioned, there's homes that are sitting empty for years. If we can maybe get them up to a better standard of being a house, then maybe they'll be occupied, which is better for the whole neighborhood. But
well, and since this has already been designated non-contributing, I think it's really kind of a moot issue.
Yes.
So I would move to grant the appeal of the Landmarks Commission determination and authorize the issuance of a building permit for 6-8 South Cleveland Street based on a finding that there is no feasible or prudent alternative to the project.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. I'd like to just compliment Mr. Pounds for your reasonable response to this situation and the fact that you're willing to put your time and energy not only into improving the house that needs to be improved. Our council package shows a very dilapidated house well on its way to ruin, and you're willing to go in there and put dollars into it, fix it up. That's a lot of energy, and then the energy going through the Landmarks Commission and coming here today. So thank you very much for taking your time. And I'd also like to commend the Landmarks Commission because they don't have a lot of options here. I guess I would just say that this is part of the foolishness of government, that we have to deal with these rules the way that we do. I think the Landmarks Commission should be the ones that have the ability to you know, make the decision that we're making today as council members. But that not being the
That's not
case,
the way it's set up.
I guess we have to deal with this.
Well, and interestingly, we've talked a lot about rentals and the standard of our rentals. And ironically, we'll probably put rules in place that Mr. Pounds would be in trouble for the windows if, on a rental property if something weren't done with them, so.
Yeah. But we'll
Yeah,
also
just
set
kinda
in
goes in a
place that he
circle.
can go talk to city staff, and if he can convince them what he's doing is reasonable, fiscally responsible, and an improvement, then staff will support it, and it won't have to come to council, hopefully.
We'll see if that comes to be.
Well, we'll be watching from the sidelines, Cindy.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Pruitt.
Yes.
I did want to mention he has to wait 5 days to get a building permit under the regulations of the state.
Does he know that?
I'll chase him down.
Chase him down.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 7C, consider purchase agreement for People's Choice Sculpture.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm Merrill Dye, the Assistant City Manager. In February of 2012, the City Council authorized the allocation of up to $15,000 from downtown public art funds for the purchase of the People's Choice Award winning sculpture from the Sculpture Walk exhibit. The public balloting for this exhibit ended December 31st of 2014, and the winner is Egghead by Kim Feibiger of Minneapolis, Minnesota. A purchase agreement between the city and the artist has been prepared, which sets out obligations for both parties, and the artist has complied with that and submitted the required documentation. Egghead has a retail price of $19,500. However, the artists agree to discount their pieces by 20% when they submit their entries in response to the call for artists. The discounted price then for Egghead is $15,600, but Ms. Feibiger has agreed to accept as a final purchase price $15,000. The funds for the purchase would come again from this capital improvement project, downtown public art funds. This is set aside specifically for public art, and that fund has a balance of about a little over $61,000 at this time. So it is staff's recommendation to go ahead and purchase Egghead, and you're probably going to ask me where we're going to place this. Certainly, the committee would recommend placing it on Main Street. We'd like to see it placed on a wall. There is a project planned for streetscape improvement from 3rd to 5th Avenues, and we'd kind of talked about placing it within that new streetscape possibly, but if not, then we would leave it to Jeremy Lindell to help us figure out a place in the downtown area, but still, we'd like to see it go on a wall. Be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
When do you think it'll be installed?
Well, it depends on when they do the streetscape.
Well, if it goes in with the streetscape, probably at the conclusion of that program, but otherwise it would just be within Jeremy Lindell's schedule. And Jeremy is our horticultural superintendent, and he works with the Sculpture Walk group in placing sculptures in the downtown area. So I'm sorry, I can't really say. It's just when he can get it plugged into his schedule.
Jim, remind me of our streetscape schedule.
Well, the engineering work and is about to the point of the field check situation, and then KDOT actually bids those
Yeah,
projects.
so it'd be a
out.
16, R16,
More likely
yeah,
it's
16 project, so it's down the road a little bit as far as that whole project. But,
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice if we could put it up sooner, and then, once the streetscape is done, then place it there permanently.
Is
I
this the
agree.
one
That's
that's placed
possible.
on the
I'm sorry?
bench near Dunkin' Donuts? Is this one of those, or is this the one?
I'm
that-
sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
Is this one currently placed outside of Edward Jones or outside of Dunkin'
No,
Donuts?
Egghead right now is at 3rd and Main.
3rd and Main.
next
Okay.
to the donut shop.
That's what I
There's
thought.
another
Okay.
piece next to it called HD.
Mm-hmm.
The one in front of Edward Jones is called Mr. Eggward. And then there's another smaller egg in front of Bluebird
Yeah.
Books.
How could
Come
I
on, Jane.
not know
Get
those
your eggs
distinctions?
known.
I know. No, I see this little guy and his partner every day when I go to work. So I like where he's at, right at that
We're
intersection.
hoping that at least one of the other eggs will be purchased. We're kind of working on that because we'd like to see at least a couple of these eggs stay in the community. And if they could be in the same proximity to each other on a wall, it would make a really neat statement.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with Bob that I'd like to see it placed somewhere, at least on a temporary basis, until its permanent home is established, because we could be talking 2 years down the road before it would get placed otherwise.
And meanwhile, it's just gonna sit back in one of our storage rooms.
Yeah, it should be
So-
out.
So let's get it out there.
Okay.
All right.
All right, do we have a motion to buy it so you can put it somewhere?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave-Line.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7D, consider donation of Butterfly Girl sculpture.
For those who may have just tuned in, I'm Merrill Dye, the Assistant City Manager. In October of 2012, the City Council adopted the Donated Public Art Guidelines, Policy Number 13, which sets out procedures for the receipt and consideration of proposed donated art to the City of Hutchinson. Generally, the City Council will review all donations that are proposed and may refuse the donation or go forward with the proposal and refer that for staff review as well as review by our downtown group if it's proposed for the downtown, or our parks director if it's going into a park, and also the Arts and Humanities Council. The city beverage owned by the Bush family served as a site sponsor for the first 3 years of Sculpture Walk, and they have purchased, or the family has purchased, a bronze sculpture by the name of Butterfly Girl. It's up on the screen. The artist is Gregory Johnson. This piece was a part of our exhibit for 2013. And the Bush family has purchased this piece and would like to donate it to the city for placement in River Banks Orchard Park, the park in the northeast part of the city, our new park. And we have a perfect place for it in the park. In anticipation of this purchase, the Sculpture Walk team reviewed this and went over this proposal, and it would be our recommendation to accept the donation and place it in the park. And it would be our recommendation that the funds that are set aside for downtown public art be used to cover the cost for the installation and the plaque that would mark the sculpture. So with that, the staff has prepared a memorandum of understanding for the acceptance of the donated piece. This is again from the Bush family, Bob, Ann, and Jack Bush.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, thank you very much.
So let me understand if I heard you correctly. So you're using the downtown streetscape art money to do the installation out at the park? Can you do that?
We
It's a little
can,
out
if
of
you tell us
downtown.
we can do that. We have used, when the city council authorized the funds to be used for the purchase of the People's Choice, at the time the group had also asked that those funds be used for installation and
Okay.
building pedestals. We have not placed a sculpture outside of the downtown up to this point. But we're talking about probably less than $500, my guess.
Okay. Are there any further questions or?
Just thank you, Bob, and the Bush family for the fine donation. I just wanted to ask you a question, Bob. Are you comfortable with some agreement with the city that you would agree to come on a weekly basis and maintain the sculpture and the trimmings and so on? Are you okay with that, Bob?
As long as you're willing to go down to the industrial park you want to buy, and you're willing to clean it up a little bit and make sure the lights are all turned on. And
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'll do a trade for services.
All right,
with you,
very
John.
good, Bob.
Thank you.
Well, on that note, I will move to approve the memorandum of understanding accepting the proposed donation of Butterfly Girl by Bob, Ann, and Jack Bush to the city of Hutchinson and placing it in Rivers Banks, which I think is a really good location.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush,
I'll abstain.
Soldner,
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho,
Yes.
Dayline,
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that this particular sculpture will be installed in the month of April in time for an event that is going to take place. And I'll let Bob talk about the event for April 24th.
Sure. Well, last year when Orchard Park was basically created, I wanted to do something kind of special there. So City Beverage, using some of our discretionary dollars for the community, we had an Arbor Day party. We brought 100 fourth graders from, at that point in time, Prosperity, to the school, to the grounds, and they planted trees. City Beverage paid for half of the trees, and we gave everybody, all the kids got T-shirts, and they planted about 40 or 50 trees in the new park, and it was a fun event. And so we decided to do it again. And so we're going to install the Butterfly Girl, and we're going to bring, I think this year it's going to be 60 or 70 students, fourth graders also, from the new Plum Creek Elementary School. And they're going to plant trees and butterfly plants around the Butterfly Girl's sculpture. And we'll have a day, and we'll give them chocolate milk and cookies and a nice break from school. So it'll be a nice Arbor Day event. And City Council and city staff will definitely be invited. And John, you can bring a shovel, and we'll keep you busy. All right? So again, thank you.
What a nice event. That sounds really great.
That'll be fun. And the kids will love it.
All right, very good.
Item 7E, consider public art program proposal by the Citizens Collective for Creative Placemaking.
I'm Merrill Dye, the Assistant City Manager. In the fall of 2014, a group of citizens began meeting to discuss how to establish a public art program in Hutchinson, and the group included local artists, business owners, community leaders, and supporters of the art. The group is named the Citizens Collective for Creative Placemaking, and their group has continued to grow. The group invited Jim Seitnader, our downtown manager, Justin Combs, our parks director, Jana Karen, our development and planning director, and myself to join them around the table and talk about how to come up with an initiative for a public art program. They also included Mark Brissett, who is the director of our Arts Association and the Hutchinson-Reno County Arts and Humanities Council. The group has developed a proposal for a public art program that includes a public art trust fund, a % for public art ordinance, and a public art design council that would oversee the program. They have a brief presentation to share with you this morning, and following that, staff would ask that the council consider action to direct staff on whether or not to move forward with the proposal. And so right now I'd like to introduce a few of the members from the Citizens Collective: Julie Black, Gina Noctical, and Alice Jane Hayes.
Thanks, Meryl, for that great intro. Wow. I'm Gina Noctigal, and thank you for welcoming us, council members and city staff. We're excited about this proposal. Briefly, we'd like to begin by sharing a 2-minute video. You guys have it?
Help is coming.
It's happening by itself.
Yeah.
So what should we say?
Well, first of all, my idea of public art, it needs to be indicative of the community. I think that it needs to represent the people that actually live in the town. I love art.
Public art gives me a sense of pride in where I live.
It helps people express themselves.
We're so excited about the opportunity for public art for Hutchinson, Kansas and the area. It would enhance our community, open opportunities for people, bring more people to our community. We're very much in support of public art.
I live in a thriving place that I can engage in and have a relationship with.
Public art is transformative.
You can't have too much art.
Good morning, I'm Alice Hayes. From that video, I'm sure that you can see it's apparent how much public art is already an integral part of our community. It's made it what it has become already, and hopefully there will be more. There is a definite growth in this arena that has occurred naturally and is still continuing, and it's this momentum that we would like to see harnessed and organized better and handled with transparency and be accountable to the public. So we are proposing, the Citizens Collective, of which I am a part of, we are proposing today that we're requesting that you, the council, approve the establishment of a permanent Hutchinson Public Art Program. This will include the adoption of a % for Art ordinance, the formation of a Public Art Design Council, and the creation of a Public Art Trust Fund. In the research that we've done for this, we have found that there are over 500 public art programs similar to this in our country alone. And these programs have caused their cities to have cultural, economic, and social dividends. It's instilled a sense of pride in these communities. It has brought people together, the residents that live there, and it's created vibrant towns wherever they've been. 80% of these programs are residing within their municipal government, which is what we are asking for. The advantage of a % of art ordinance, as you can see by the slide on the wall, is that it is a dedicated funding source for public art projects. We advocate a 1% of the municipal capital improvement project funds that we have, which would involve public art or public buildings, parks, streetscapes, parking lots, those kinds of things would be money that was allocated for those things. This funding and the structure of this program will ensure that we have adequate resources to create and develop a public art program. It will also give us long-term maintenance money to keep the art that is put up, to keep it in good shape. It will give us money to promote public education of the art itself and of the artists that have constructed the art, and to tell people about the program. What it does not do, this ordinance does not raise any taxes. Rather, what it really does do is give an ongoing priority for art in our budget, in the city budget. The kinds of public art that this community can receive from the program are numerous and varied. We can have statues, monuments as large as the War Memorial at First and Walnut, or things as small as well-designed trash cans or bike racks. It can be anything. We can have, this pertains to signage, to lighting, not just downtown street lighting, but we're hoping that as time goes on, perhaps neighborhoods will want to make themselves, come together and make themselves a place and have a design maybe of the lighting in their area that will set them apart and give them an identity.
You can get your polls, John.
I was thinking the same
Yeah.
thing.
Oh.
You got my attention when you
Okay.
talk about lighting.
All right.
I want to know what the material will be.
Yeah. All right. Well,
And the
good enough.
design.
Well, as I'm saying, it can be anything. It can be landscaping, signage, sculptures, architectural features, water features, stained glass, mosaics, murals, everything. The possibilities are endless. So what I would kind of like you to do right now is picture our city as a beautiful woman in the proverbial little black dress. But that dress needs accessories, because it's the accessories that you put on that dress that make a statement about that community and about the person that wears a dress like that. So we are asking to help us accessorize our town, because those accessories will tell you what our town's personality is, the tastes of our community, our culture, our viewpoints, the values that we live by. So in short, art that is carefully chosen, carefully placed, will give the kind of will demonstrate the kind of character that our city has to the people that live here and to visitors that will come. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Julie Black. Over the last 10 years especially, Hutchinson has been gaining the reputation as a creative destination. There has been a resoundingly positive response to the ever-growing public art that has been placed throughout our city to date. Programs like Third Thursday, the Sculpture Walk, the Art Walk, to mention a few, have further catalyzed downtown development. The art movement has taken on a life of its own, can be seen citywide to have helped to put Hutchinson on the map. I think that it's safe to say that we've all driven through a town and said, what an interesting place. It isn't signage or the normal corner store that sparks your interest. It is the uniqueness that's exclusive to that city. It is the personality that it offers through the departure from the expected and the mundane. In simple terms, those cities just simply stand out. There are reports that first impressions are made in roughly 7 to 10 seconds. We want the first impression when visiting Hutch to be one of curiosity and a desire to explore more. We want to use public art to give Hutchinson a distinct personality that can only be felt here and is representative of our community as a whole. We want Hutch to be a place that welcomes diversity and embraces positive change and progress. We want to provide an environment that puts us at the top of the list for companies searching for a home and a workforce. We want our town to be the city where everyone says, oh, you have to go, it's just simply amazing. Equally important is that the people who work and live here take pride in Hutch instead of saying it's just Hutch. They say, this is Hutch and I'm proud to call it my home. Art is far louder than sound at times. It affects change and it evokes emotion. From large and loud pieces to the most subtle, there's a shift in mood, perception, and attitude to all who encounter art. Many times we aren't even aware of it. Art is truly powerful. Thank you for listening to our presentation and considering our request for a Hutchinson Public Art Program.
Thank you. Do we have some questions or?
Well, I think from the crowd here today and certainly the emails we've all received about this is certainly something of interest and importance to our community. And Julie, I think you touched on the fact that in the last 10 years, our community has really shown, a transition to a more art-friendly atmosphere. And I really commend Carrie Mayu for her efforts to bring together a lot of different voices, a lot of different, I guess, groups that were already working in this arena, and I think together it can be very powerful. So thank you all for coming today and for your efforts in this arena. And I also appreciate that the public art as put forth in your proposal is very broadly defined. So things like corridor beautification, plants, et cetera, landscaping. I think that this is a very doable allocation in my estimate. So, thank you.
Mayor, I have some questions, if I can, and some of this I certainly want to join others in complimenting each of you for your initiative, and I want, I guess, the record to show that I'm certainly a proponent of the public arts program. But I do have some questions pertaining not necessarily to the art implementation itself, but more from the budgeting standpoint of the city. And Frank, you may have some responses to this, or John, in terms of the budget process. Assuming this ordinance were to be approved, I guess my line of questioning would be, as this would impact the CIP program, and during the budgeting process, and I think we operate under a cash basis law, so I guess I'm trying to get a clarification in terms of the formation of this trust fund as to at what point would the city council then ultimately have some authority or approval process of the creation of this 1% of the CIP, or is this just an ongoing fund that would be automatically approved, or would we have, during the budget process, some ability to review the plan, review what the intended purposes of the use of those funds would be? So perhaps we can get a clarification on that.
Typically, in percent for art programs that are built into a capital improvement program, the monies are identified for the projects that are going to take place from year to year. And so departments would be directed to keep in mind that 1% of their projects that they are proposing need to include public art, unless it includes a project for water, wastewater, stormwater, street construction and repair, or maintenance projects. But anything that qualifies in whatever is the final decision. But for buildings, parks, trails, parking lots, any of those types of projects, 1% would be carved out in the project budget, and those funds would stay in the CIP for that department. What I have seen in other programs in other cities is it stays with that project. But if the project doesn't really lend itself to public art because it's too small of a project, or because it's not in an area that is publicly accessible, or has high traffic for the public, then the department may pool those funds until a project comes along where it could be allocated to something else. Also, I've seen where the project doesn't, again, lend itself to public art, then the 1% still is set aside in the trust fund for projects down the road. But some portion of that trust fund is allocated to maintenance for the conservation, the cleaning, the inventory, the documentation of just making sure that we're taking care of the collection that we're creating.
So Bob doesn't have to go out and pull weeds around.
Bob didn't have to come with any cleaning supplies.
Just the first year.
No, I do appreciate the maintenance component. I think too often that we don't factor that in, and that's what gets us on the budgeting
Gets
side.
us in trouble.
Well, that's when things deteriorate, fall apart, and look
For
like
sure.
crap.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions. I mean, we're done with the funding.
I was just going to follow
I
up.
don't know
not
if John
quite,
may
yeah.
have had a
Yeah.
little
We're not?
bit
Oh,
more.
okay.
Not quite.
Because I think I know, I mean, the issue of the cash basis and the, that
Right.
this is approving something, long-term that, we don't do because we're on a cash basis. But I think a lot of that may come into play when we start looking at how the ordinance is written. And again, as Merrill explained, these are project specific, so as you approve each project each year, that would be a part of that budget. But I think the ordinance, and I've looked at several different ordinances, I think that may be where we address some of the issues you're referring to. Is there a way to escape from a specific project because of circumstances and the may rather than shall type language, and those are things that we probably would address during the ordinance.
Well, John, Salina and Wichita aren't under GAP, aren't they under cash basis as well?
Right, yeah.
And they have this type of 1%
So
ordinance
I
in
don't think
place.
that's a insurmountable issue whatsoever. But I do think there needs to be some consideration to, and I don't want to use the word escape clause, but shall, may types things that circumstances come up based on certain projects and budgets and what have you. So again, I think once we bring that ordinance back to you, it'll have more specifics into to those kinds of things.
Well, let me use as an example, and this may not be a good example, but the Fun Valley parking lot replacement as an example. Is that a good or bad example?
The parking lot's
CIP.
bad.
That's bad.
In
Parking lot's bad.
in terms of how it relates to this.
As it relates to this, that's correct.
Yeah, and in what we're doing now with that would not qualify for this. At least, of course, we haven't written the ordinance, but I would be very opposed to those kinds of things, because that's really what we're doing there is a maintenance issue out there.
Okay.
Now, if
So
we're
is that the
looking at-
distinction as to why that wouldn't, otherwise I'm confused as to,
Well,
yeah,
we're
streets,
looking at
parking
a
lots,
complete reconstruction
because it's not a
of the parking
maintenance,
lot
or it is a maintenance.
is a new project. What we're doing at Fun Valley this year is a maintenance issue, and to me,
Just
that would not
resurfacing.
kick into this type of program.
So for instance, if we reconstructed it, we might consider medians with
Medians
landscaping
and,
or art.
you know,
But since
exactly.
and that would fall under this provision.
Again,
Maybe.
until we put the ordinance together and specify what CIP projects would be included, because I've been a proponent that it doesn't really qualify for all of our street reconstruct projects. For example, if we're doing, this year, we're doing Waldron from
Yeah.
23rd to 30th, to me, that's not, now, there are some ordinances that would kick that in. I'm more into, to the definitions that we've had, which was, parks and buildings and streetscape type things, so. But it could.
So it could
we
be
need a
tailored
better
to what we're
definition.
comfortable
Yeah,
with.
we've got to be
Yeah.
eyes open when we adopt this ordinance at the time.
Well, when I read your report, and I thought your report was fine, but there's something I would be very candid with you that troubles me a little bit, and that is the Salina community, where it referenced in there, and this may not apply here, but I referenced that in the Salina, when they formed years ago the Arts and Humanities program with the city of Salina, they started with a budget of about $10,000. And today they say they have a staff of 15 people and a budget of a little over $1 million. And I guess, I know that's not your all's intent, but I guess I would caution all of us is that as we create this, is that we do not create a whole new department at $1 million budget that has gotten way out of perspective in terms of what our original intent is.
Could
That
you
$1 million
comment?
budget is city funded?
Yes, it is, as I understand it.
Well, and I questioned that
Yeah.
when we met with
Yeah.
the group, and I said, that can't be right, but there's
I think
something-
that also includes the museum that they, that they,
and the festival and the museum.
right, it's the total of what they manage. I don't think that staff and that budget is just for the public art portion itself.
Okay, but that leads into, that was one of my concerns, is the staff,
Right.
where it references a staff person. And even at the amounts being thrown out that would have come in last year and this year on that, eating up the whole fund with a staff person. And is a full-time staff person necessary, or
What?
is it something that would be absorbed?
I thought it said supported by staff.
Supported by
Right.
staff, and in
Which
one
is
of
what
my,
staff's doing right now.
one of
They're
my
meeting
actual
with the group.
conversations, something was said about, I think, adding a staff member.
Oh.
So that concerned me.
Well, I think that's up to the council. I think, that, once the program is established and what we're focusing on is the capital improvement projects and using the trust funds for that. If the funds build up or something changes down the road in the future, then the capacity changes, then, 5 years from now, a different council's gonna look at that. and
But we
decide-
currently have staff to implement this
Well,
now.
John and I have talked about
Yes.
this being assigned to me.
Okay.
Okay.
And
So
I
it
think-
wouldn't
I
be a
think in that-
creation of a
It
new
would not be a
position.
new,
this wouldn't be a new position, a new staff member, a full-time person to handle this.
No. Now, again, as Merrill said, that, 5 years from now, this whole thing could look a lot different, and obviously
Well,
this
John's
council.
gonna shut you down at that point.
Yeah, we know that, but our intent is that we manage that. Merrill and I have talked about that, there's got to be some connection with the city, some ownership, some oversight, and she's agreed to do that. In time, the Arts Humanities Council, Hutchinson Arts, they've got an executive director. Is that a possibility that goes there somewhere? I don't know, but as we sit here today, we're not talking about hiring an additional individual to implement this program. As Mayor said, we're talking last year it was $47,000, and another year it was $90, and so it's not a huge amount of money that
Right, and
this is
that's why
going
it
to
really was
generate every
concerning
year.
to think of a person being hired and eating up those funds as opposed to those actually going to see something done.
And we do have capable people in roles already. You mentioned Mark, that would be probably better equipped maybe in the future if we move that way. But I had a question about the Public Art Design Council, and I was wondering if that would be structured in a similar fashion to the other commissions we have, such as Housing Commission, with the requirement that members be, from Hutchinson or Reno County.
Our policy provides right now that they have to be residents of Hutchinson, but unless it's prohibited by statute or local ordinance, up to 20% of a board can be comprised of people who live outside of the city. But the draft ordinance that John and I have discussed provides that the council be comprised of people who their backgrounds are in visual arts, architecture, historic preservation, business, so on and so forth. But the group is proposing 7 members. We're proposing, in addition to that, certain staff people be in an ex officio role, serving with that committee, particularly the Parks Director, the Downtown Director, and I might even add Jana, our Planning Director, so that we can make sure that public art is tied to the comprehensive plan. And then also Mark Reset, who's the Director of our Arts and Humanities Council, to serve as kind of advisory to the Design Council. There are a lot of different partners in a public art program. The Design Council is just one of those. But you would have the Arts and Humanities Council, the Arts Community, contract consultants, the departments themselves. There are just a lot of different players, and the Design Council would be kind of that central focus to work with the different groups to make sure that the program is carried out, and that what we're doing is what the community wants, because the community's the expert here in not just creating design, but in creating a sense of place.
Well, again, I think that Design Council could really bring a lot of cohesion to efforts that are disparate, and just it would make a much greater impact. So I really appreciate your comments, John, because we have a lot of competing priorities in this community, and can't allow this to get out of hand and require additional staff when we could use additional staff and housing and other areas. But
Merrill, you made an interesting point that the community is the judge. So how does the community get to judge? How's the community involved with the decision making on approving a particular piece of public art from city funds, taxpayer dollars?
In the public art programs that I've reviewed, depending on the project, if it's a very large project, usually a call for artists goes out either through an RFQ, a request for qualifications, or an RFP, request for proposal. And then a committee is put together that might be a subgroup of the Design Council called a selection committee, or it could be a jury, who is then going to make recommendations to select the artist. The community gets involved because they might be a part of that jury or part of the selection committee, or if a community meeting needs to be held to get input from the community of what they would like to see in terms of public art. So there are opportunities to involve the community in this process.
Yeah, but my concern is that there's always opportunities, but will those opportunities actually occur? My experience is that you're going to have a group of art experts or people involved with art or art who have an appreciation for art, and they're going to be on this committee, and they're going to, someone's going to come up with a project, and they're going to say, yeah, I think that's a great idea, let's do it, and they're going to have the money, and so then they're going to all vote to do it, and then they'll do it. Where does the community get involved with that? And what if the community decides that they hate it? And then what you'll hear is, well, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. Well, okay. How do we get the community? I mean, the thing that's great about the sculpture walk is everybody that walks down there gets to vote. And then whoever gets the most votes, right, we all say, great, the city buys it, we put it up, and it's wonderful. And you can say, everybody had the chance to look at this and vote. So the community spoke. But when you're talking about, you know, putting something up, how does the community really get a vote? Because the community, the average person driving down the street, they don't know who the artists are in the community, so they don't hang out with them. So they don't ever get invited to come to the committee meetings. Not that the committee's trying to shut everybody off, but it's just natural selection, right? How does the community get involved in this? Because what if the committee of 7 is completely wrong?
I studied a lot of the cities that have public art programs, not only in Kansas but across the country. There's many of them. I was just reading the other day about how the mural happened in 1941 at the post office. And that was done through the Hutch News. They asked artists from across the region to send in proposals, drawings. It was put in the paper, and there was a vote taken within the community. It narrowed it down to a certain number, and then that council decided from those 3 that the community had picked, much like the sculpture walk. There's, in Iowa City, they brought neighborhoods together where they wanted, the neighborhood came together and formed a committee, kind of like a neighborhood watch, if you will. They went to the council, this community within the community, and said, this is what we want to represent. And again, a call for artists. They voted on it. So that's a lot of the way how we hope to gain community involvement is through things like that. And it could be even broader than that. Those are just the things that I had read about.
I mean, I would like to see something in the ordinance that requires some sort of a widespread, community-wide input on any piece of art that's going to be, you know,
But we're
funded
not
with- funded with
always going to be
taxpayer dollars.
talking about art, are we? I mean, look at the welcome sign off of 30th Street. That was more than $60,000. That one piece, which under this, I guess, presentation would be broadly defined as public art, was more than the entire budget we're talking about for this group. So I mean, I just think that's unfeasible. Sorry, I'm sorry.
I don't think it's unfeasible to put an ad in the paper of a color picture of what your artist wants to do, that your committee wants to do, and say, please send your comments, whether you like this or not, to, you know, hutchgov.com, whatever. It's easy to go out and impact the community. We have a web page, we have email availability, we have, you know, a newspaper. I mean, I think there's things that we can do to go out there and get comments. I mean, I will tell you that, and I'll bring up a good example. I mean, it's probably a terrible example. I'm going to get in trouble for bringing it up, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. You know, the piece of artwork at the roundabout.
I knew you were talking about that, Bob.
We all know that.
But I'll tell you what, though, half the people want to tear it down, the other half think it's great art. Okay? But who voted on that? You know, I mean, that's my point I'm trying to get to. What if, I mean, is this art going to be able to, I mean, is this group going to, how is this group going to get the public to say yes? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm the guy that's spending all kinds of dollars on artwork, you know, out of my own pocket because I think it needs to be done because it's an unmet need in our community. So I support this. What I don't support is 5 years from now, 7 people sitting around saying, hey, Joe's got a great idea for painting. Let's do it. Okay, you know, let's go. And then all of a sudden it's done and people go, who in the world thought that was a good idea?
But doesn't the council ultimately have oversight over this committee like any other committee? And couldn't we step
Yes.
in at any time?
So
Yes.
everything that you want to spend money on is going to go to the council?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if we recognize abuse in any fashion, how many standing commissions do you think that we have made up of citizens? 15, 20?
Less than that, but.
Probably a dozen or more.
Yeah.
So do we allow everybody? Do we put an ad in the paper when the planning commission wants to rezone and get input from the community?
Well,
I-
yeah,
I
because
think it
that's
depends on-
public notice.
Let me remind you how that sign,
That you have
how
to
the
do.
signage
That's not a
up
good
there to the
example.
south of
No.
Development, and that was opened up as a contest.
Yeah.
And that was a fiasco.
Well, no,
That opened up as, you guys remember probably a lot better than I do, but I think how did that even go? Was it a design, and then that was kind of put down, and then it went as a public contest, and you will unfortunately, most of the people who will voice their opinions will be on the negative side. So I guess you'll be monitoring all the comments, but the signage out to the south of town, I think that public input ended up getting scrapped because it just became a bit of a nightmare.
But it's a struggle for me to take taxpayers' dollars and to give them to a unique subset of the community,
Appointed by the council.
appointed by the council, to then, go out and approve projects that will represent the community without the community being involved. That's the issue.
Do we do that with
How
our
is
drug
the
and
community
alcohol
really
funds? Don't they vote on? Don't we have a committee that votes on how
Yes.
to allocate our drug and alcohol funds?
Well, they recommend to the council.
Yeah.
I would
And
see
then
this
let
though
me-
as being a
then the
little more
council
open
reviews it.
though to the public, that if the public chose
Yeah.
to attend their meeting, they could have some input. But you're right, how do they know? How do they know what's going on and what's coming up? But
Let me suggest that rather than making a requirement in the ordinance, that one of the first tasks of a design council would be to come up with a set of recommended policies and
Great idea.
guidelines. And within those guidelines, which of course the council would need to ultimately approve, would be a component to include community input on proper projects. Not everything may lend itself to that. But let me give you an example. We're building this multi-million-dollar park in the northeast part of our community. I don't know, except for the donation we received today, that any consideration has been given to public art in this multi-phase project. We're getting ready to spend $6 million on, improving Main Street from, what is it, 17th or 7th to 30th Street. I don't know that any consideration has been given to the opportunities there. Don't mean to get ahead of myself, but if the sports arena project is approved by the voters in April, that's a $30 million project. Are we going to build a $30 million facility without any consideration for public art? So I think those kinds of projects really do lend themselves to community input, and we would be remiss not to, take the opportunity to get the community's feedback in that process.
And I think that we would be remiss to not ask for public opinion on public art funded with public dollars. That, I think, should never be allowed to happen, in my opinion. And I don't care if you're painting trash cans or what you're doing.
so as Meryl said, I think in developing this, you come back with something that we can, instead of us trying to
Hash it out.
micromanage it
Yeah.
at this point.
Well, we're just throwing out
but
a bunch of thoughts.
Yeah.
and that's fine.
Seems to
and
me
that's
that,
something they need to address in bringing it back.
Right.
seems to me that the key to the implementation of this, in this ordinance, will be some language on whether it's a shall or a may. And the projects you described. My concern is that if it's a shall, that it's going to drive the ultimate cost up on the overall project because of the requirement of 1% allocated for in the name of art. And whether or not that would jeopardize the overall project is my concern. So to me, there's a whole series of unanswered questions. I'm not sure today whether or not we're ready to actually formally recommend the implementation of this ordinance, or does it require additional study internally by the staff and
Yeah,
through
I-
a study
well, I
session?
think we're
I-
just
I don't-
accepting-
All
This
we're
wouldn't
doing
be
is
an actual adoption of any ordinance.
No, it's not the
Yeah.
adoption,
No.
it's just
We're just
the
accepting the
establishment.
proposal and saying that
Right.
we're willing to hear more about it, I think.
Right. Kinda where
And
I
that
am.
would lead staff then to the preparation of draft ordinance, and that
I
would come
certainly think we
back
need
and
more of that.
may take
Yeah.
several whacks at that, but
I
that
certainly
would
think
be
we need
the
more of that.
object or objective today.
So I think we've kind of identified that we want it, whatever comes back to define clearly what projects would actually be included, for lack of what to call it otherwise, but have, whether there's an escape clause for future councils to be able to not include that 1%. Define who the council members would be, and the city ex officio staff would be on that council or board. Anything else on that? That we're not adding a staff member at this time, that it would be put under current staffing?
I think with your ordinance, you also need to address the issue of, not accepting public art that has a religious or political connotation. I think that needs to be stated in there. I mean, if someone wants to, use their wall to paint a political picture, that's their right within certain limits. But I think public art, you need to be very careful about staying away from anything that's political or religious in nature.
I would assume that's already built into your acceptance.
Well,
Guidelines.
wasn't our sculpture purchased
Well, let's
last year,
assume it and write it down.
Weeping
Well, okay,
Rachel?
I mean,
okay.
let's assume
That
it
was a
and write it
religious
down.
piece.
All right.
But it's-
Well, you say that, but I mean, there's certain things that our governor has done lately, in regards to the art community that they're pretty mad about, and I don't blame them. And I would hate to see basically political cartoons, if you will, being approved. I don't think this group would do that. But, you just never know what 7 people are gonna do after a couple lattes.
Don't think they'd be lattes.
Well, I wasn't gonna go there.
Well, good luck
Well,
with that ordinance,
I
Meryl.
think-
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
we'll,
we have to beat this one into the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any further questions, anything else that needs to be said? Anyone in the audience that would like to address this to any further extent? Yes, if you would come to the podium and state your name and address.
Good morning. My name is Mark McLaughlin. I live at 201 West 19th. I was born and raised here in Hutchinson, Kansas. After high school, I joined the military and spent most of my life away from Hutchinson, but moved back here 3 years ago. I, with many of my friends and colleagues behind me here who has brought this item to your attention, I guess the way I interpret it, there are many people in this community that have put forth their own time, effort, and money way beyond what would be expected of a normal citizen. They have bought into the community. I think all they're asking is for you to buy in to the community with their proposal. Now, as a council, and with any council or committees or subcommittees, an ad hoc committee can be formed at any time for any reason and include anybody outside of that council. So that's the way you involve the public, is you make the information known to them when and where the meeting is according to Kansas open meeting laws. And they're invited to come and participate and give their input into this ad hoc committee. It all falls under the umbrella of the city council. So again, like I said, I think a lot of us have put time, effort, and money into our community, and we're just asking that the council do the same thing. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else? All right, do we have a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the proposal for the Citizens Collective for Creative Placemaking and direct staff to come up with an ordinance for council to review.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Crowett?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7F, consider bid acceptance for hike bike trail at K61 and 30th Avenue.
Good morning. I'm Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities.
Might give you a second.
Yeah, let everybody clear.
Wait for the herd to leave.
I thought everybody here was for my trail.
Yeah. All right, Justin, you've cleared the room.
You scared them all away.
Yep.
Don't take it personally.
We probably all went out to hit the trails.
That's right. It's like a nice day out. So this item is for the acceptance of the low bid for a new trail project at the intersection of K61 and 30th. As you can see on the monitors here, I've kind of drawn it. Get the laser pointer out. Okay. So what this is 30th and K61. The sections in red are the new trail that we're asking to build. So there's a section here, and then there's a section closer to Apple Lane. What's in yellow is existing sidewalk or existing trail. This project has two crossings across 30th in two different places. Where it crosses here near Apple Lane, we're actually moving that crossing. There's an existing crossing there. We're moving it further away from the intersection of Apple Lane to make it safer. That will not be a signalized crossing. That will be, we'll have advanced warnings, trail crossing ahead type signs, and then the white bars, white dashes across 30th. Closer to the intersection, there will be a fully signalized push button pedestrian crosswalk there as well as part of this project. So what this really is doing is it's connecting the pedestrian overhead bridge to Dillon Nature Center in this area, as well as this stretch right here that is part of old K61, that when they removed it, they left, I believe it's the shoulder, it's a 10-foot wide path for use as trail in the future. So we're connecting this bridge, this pedestrian bridge, to that section of trail. And then that section of trail takes you, it's probably a quarter mile, maybe a little more, up to where there's a dead end, where old K61 dead ends. And then eventually you can continue on to 43rd Street. So we're getting really close then to making a connection to Orchard Park as well. The next phase of trail that I would focus on would be piggybacking on this project and getting a trail from 43rd over into Orchard Park. And at that point, we have effectively connected Dillon Nature Center to Orchard Park, as well as to this overhead bridge, which gets us across K61, which is kind of a big thing to do is to get across a major state highway. So. Low bid for this project was $79,117. We will be doing a lot of the work in-house. All the signals will be installed in-house, so our engineering department signal crew will install all the signals and do all the wiring for the signals. The pavement markings will be done by city crews, as well as all the signs for this will be done by city staff as well. So that's why the bids are lower than what I'm sure you saw the funding piece of this, which is really exciting. To pay for this, we were able to get a private donation from the New Way family in the amount of $145,000. That donation was made in memory of Mike L. New Way. And so we will, if approved, we will name this section of trail. I believe the name, we haven't confirmed the exact name. We're working on whether we use a middle initial or not. But as of right now, the name will be the Mike L. New Way Memorial Trail. And it'll be a version of that. We may drop the L, we may put Michael instead of Mike. But so the $145,000 donation covers the full cost of this project, the engineering design work, all the signal crossing, all the materials that city crews will buy, and the contractor who will be installing the pathways. Again, I think this is a huge project. It's really not very many linear feet of trail, but what it does is really makes a key connection that we can continue to expand on and really expand our trail system. And I really think in the future this is going to be a highly utilized area once we make a few more connections.
That's really a nice donation by the family.
Yes, yeah. That Mike Lewick was the one who kind of started that conversation with the New Way family And then when I took over, we resumed conversations with Heather Neway and the Neway family, and they were still on board. They have indicated they're interested in other pieces. They haven't committed any funds for anything. But every time we meet, she's asking, well, what's next? You know, what's the time frame for this section and that section? So they're a great partner and very motivated. Mike was an avid cyclist, and so that's why they're wanting to do something in his honor. We will put up some signage as well as a plaque, kind of similar to what we have across the street at George Pyle Park. They look like they're bronze plaques with his photograph. Possibly, if the family wants a photograph, we'll do a photograph and some verbiage that they pick. With that, I'll answer any other questions. Again, it is my recommendation to move forward with this project, and again, just want to thank the Neway family for the donation.
Yeah, that's certainly generous of them. So is there anything special that has to be done to get under the bridge? I thought when we talked about this sometime in the past that there had to be some kind of special things done to get us under that bridge. I mean, I know there's clearance, but covering
No.
or...
What we originally wanted to do was keep most of this on the north side, instead of crossing twice. To get to Orchard to Dillon Nature Center, Orchard Park to Dillon Nature Center, you have to cross twice. The railroad was going to require us to build a retaining wall, or there's actually an existing retaining wall there, but move the retaining wall back. It was going to be $500,000 just for that retaining wall. The railroad was very difficult to work with as far as getting even permits to do anything on their property.
Surprise.
Our engineering team said it would probably be 6 months to a year before they would even review anything we wanted to do on their property. So that's why we're connecting to existing structures, existing sidewalk under the bridge.
But we can go under there without having to have any kind of a cover.
Yeah, there's plenty of clearance. Yeah. So the sidewalk will narrow down from 10 feet to the existing sidewalk, which is either 4 or 5 feet. I didn't measure it out there, but when it goes under the bridge. So.
And I don't know, when you come off of the bridge, not anything to do with the new stuff, but going to the west in front of the school, is there already a sidewalk tying that bridge
This
back?
way? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, there is.
There isn't on the north side, is there, except for right in front of Prairie Star?
Correct. Yeah.
There's a lot of connectivity issues that we could address in the future in the sidewalk along that area. But
Probably once you get down past the school, you could use a light to go across 30th and be then on the north side of the street. So.
Yeah, there's also been some talks internally with staff about connecting where the trail ends at 23rd and Halstead, connecting it to this pedestrian bridge. I know Mike Lewick had worked on getting some easements. It was unsuccessful in that, but I've talked with engineering that there might be some alternative options. It's going to be down the road a ways before we can make that connection. That's a difficult intersection, and there's not enough property in there without us getting an easement, or obviously we wouldn't want to condemn property for a trail, but so that's going to be a challenge.
Probably be a part of reconstruction of Halstead South someday when that happens.
Correct. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that's what Brian Clinton and I have talked about. Whenever we upgrade the intersection at Halstead and 30th, that we would bring the trail up Halstead, which that way gives us better access to the school, and it'd be more useful to Union Valley as well. So we'd have trail on one side and then sidewalk on the north side.
Well, it'd be great if we could make that expensive bridge more utilized.
Absolutely. And I think this should help. So.
I still have concerns about kids especially, crossing 30th to get into Dillon Park. I don't know how you handle it, because I don't think you want to put a signal or anything there, but I think that's going to have to be watched.
Yeah, that is the engineer's recommendation, to move the crosswalk closer to the bridge, was to give there more of a sight line as people turn from Apple Lane onto 30th. They did look at signalizing that, but that would require that whole intersection to be signalized. So at this point, it was a little cost prohibitive to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I do have concerns.
Okay, any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'd move to accept the low bid and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Ward Davis Builders for the construction of a new trail at the intersection of K61 and 30th.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Light.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes, thanks, Justin. All right, next item.
Item 8, report of city officials.
John, do you have anything this morning?
Nothing, Mayor.
I do not. Thank you.
All right, Bob?
Not today, thank you.
Nancy?
No.
And I have nothing either, so we will turn it over to our city manager.
All right, a couple quick things. Just a reminder, in our verify schedules on March 11th, we talked about a study session that day at 8 a.m. that we would talk about the rental housing registration proposal, kind of report from the Housing Commission, housing staff as to where we're at with that, and then some conversation with the fire chief on fire station construction options we talked about during the budget last year, as opposed to repairing, roofs and maybe looking at new construction, and kind of wanted to talk with what they've worked on there and some of their thoughts as to where we head there. So I wanted to, and I know Councilman Bush got a conflict on the 11th. Didn't know if anybody else had any conflicts.
Did you say 8 o'clock?
Yes.
Did you say 8 o'clock? That's fine.
And I do know we have that day some neighborhood works training.
Yeah,
and
Signed up for that.
We'll write you a note. You can be tardy for
I
that
can be tardy.
session that day. So.
Jan
I think
will
it
let
starts
me.
at like 9 or something.
Yeah,
So,
it does.
So anyway, if there's any other issues, let me know there. The other thing I just wanted to comment on, and Justin can help me out with this, and I feel, I want to apologize first of all for the late notice. I can't remember if we've talked about this before, but last summer when we were going through the whole Fun Valley and capital improvements and what do we do, what don't we do, what's the future of Fun Valley, and we co-opted with, entered into partnership with HRC, and part of that conversation, we're actually through HRC to bring in a group called Green Play to really look at Fun Valley, tour the facilities, talk to all the stakeholder groups, and really help us kind of figure out what the future of Fun Valley can really be before we start spending a bunch of money on capital improvements and not really know what our feasibility, what's the feasibility, what's the future of Fun Valley. And today, that individual's in town. I think there's some kickoff meetings, meeting with HR staff, with city staff. There's also some public meetings, and I don't know if Justin or Tony's back there wants to talk about it, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. I meant to bring this up at the last council meeting. So, and we are paying for half of this, which our half is $12,000, I think.
12.5.
12.5, yeah.
Yeah, it's a split venture between the city and Hutchinson. Really, it's a needs assessment is kind of how Tony and I are looking at it. We're hoping at the end of this we will get a better understanding of the future of Fun Valley and really the future of outdoor youth and adult, I guess, athletics in the city. So they're not just looking at Fun Valley. They're going to look at all of our outdoor facilities. They'll make recommendations. Do we need more soccer fields? Do we need less softball fields? If we were to build soccer fields, where it makes sense to have them? Should we just stick to Monday through Thursday league softball? Should we go after these regional tournaments more? And if we do go after these regional tournaments, what are the economic benefits? That's a key thing we're excited about. Is we'll get some economic benefit numbers on when Hutchinson does host these tournaments. What's the benefit the city sees? So it's a exciting project. Hopefully we'll get some good direction. And we do have several meetings today at 10 o'clock. I guess that's past. Green Play met with Hutchinson staff at noon. Be a stakeholder meeting at 2:30. A city staff will meet with Green Play. 3:30, the chamber, and at 5:30, another stakeholder group, and then at 7 p.m. is the public forum. All those meetings are at Hutchinson, just down the road. So I would encourage everyone to attend those. The 7 o'clock one will probably be the best one. That's kind of for public input, but you're welcome at any of the other times. And again, apologize for the late notice. I'll take the blame for the late notice. I was late. I've been talking to John about it, but I'd get the dates and times to him.
We would have wrapped this thing up by 10 if we'd done. Actually, that
And-
sounds like a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be some good information as we're kind of seeing, transforming a little out
Yeah,
there as to
and-
what our future is. so.
And there will be other opportunities, especially for the city council. There'll be a draft presentation where they'll come back with the kind of the first set of findings, and they'll do a formal presentation to the Hutchinson board as well as the city council. And then we'll take feedback at that time too. So once we have something to look at and kind of dig our teeth into, we'll be able to make some suggestions before we take the final draft. So.
What's your time frame?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Tony, when are we expecting?
First draft to you guys should be May-ish.
Okay,
Very soon.
We hope to be wrapped up with the final process by June.
okay.
That should help us with
I was thinking
budgeting.
budgeting,
so.
yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And
Thank-
that'll also help us in the 15 budget. We have the $400,000 set aside for Fund Valley improvements. So it'll help give us some direction before we just start spinning all that down to make improvements. This will give us some direction on what areas need to be addressed. So.
Okay, thanks, appreciate that.
Thank you.
And that really is all I have, except to ask for a motion to adjourn to executive session for until, let's say noon, for the purpose of discussing employer-employee negotiations.
So move.
Second.
For the clerk, please call the roll.
Bush,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Tyro State Carvalho,
Yes.
Dave Light,
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes.